waste of time when I'm writing. I'm a reporter. I'm supposed to be writing about things that matter. I have a great life. I have a great family. But I feel like I should be making a difference.
8 kids from this block alone died from drugs last year. All of them under 15.
Nobody's writing about it. Nobody cares. Writing a story. You're my man.
What do you want to know?
What did you say to that woman?
Nothing important.
Here's the latest candidate, John Gilligan.
Can I ask you some questions?
That report
Mortar is a liability.
Can't you nail them?
No food.
You writing about the bad guys?
There's just
I'm a bad guy. I'm after someone who's way past bedtime.
Could the murders be drug related?
can't believe everything you hear, Miss Kieran.
You saw those kids on the street, you would do the same. Not if those people shooting at me, you wouldn't.
You've been to my home. Maybe it's time I visited yours.
You're
gonna stop this now?
Stop this now.
People get killed every day. No one's going to miss one more reporter.
I'm so scared. I know. You know, Veronica, sometimes it's braver to just walk away. Do you think I want to do this, do you? I don't want to do it. I have to do it.
He wants this to end before things get any worse. She's on her way.
How can it get any worse?
Things can always get worse, Veronica. Veronica Guerin.
If I was to be intimidated, that means they've won. And they're not going to win.
Holy shit. Kevin.
Grade A beefy
topics. Out the bull.
This is the Kevin Trudeau Show. 888-99-KEVIN.
Welcome to the Kevin Trudeau Show. Kevin Trudeau here.
They don't want to know about it.
Tuning in.
Good chance today.
No
guarantees, but good chance.
Take your phone
Take your phone call.
If you want to get in the queue, it's
888-99-KEVIN.
By the way,
888-99-KEVIN.
I
listen to all recorded
messages that come in. And somebody left a message on our voicemail. It was very distraught. They didn't leave their name, or email address, or contact details. And I don't know what the issue is. And if this is you, please send us an email and give me a little more details so I can communicate with you. But a loyal listener, a big fan, called and said that him and his wife, which are big fans, was listening to some audio that I produced on making money. Some audio. And I'm not sure. They didn't say if they were gin members or if just radio listeners. I don't know what audio it was, but there was some audio that I did on making money. And even though they're big fans, that they were in tears, they were really upset, they were very offended. And certainly I offend a lot of people. I understand that. But I gotta know what it was that I said that offended you. Not that I can defend myself. But at the end of the day, I don't want to offend anybody, but I do want to step on toes. To wake you up. So if you're the listener who left a voicemail on our comment line, you can call in and leave a verbal comment. And you and your wife were distraught and offended about something I said on a making money or some type of CD or audio. Please send me an email to support at KTRadioNetwork.com so I know what the situation is, so I can at least comment about it on the air. I would love to. What I did to offend you. so I can do more
do
offending things. You know I say offensive stuff on the show. I try to offend everybody. So don't feel picked on. But I want to at least explain the rational reason why I was trying to offend. Or at least step on toes. So
Step on toes.
You know, I got some interesting research last night. I was up very late. And I was doing interesting research because a lot of people are writing in. And by the way, at KTRadioNetwork.com, we have a lot of comments. It's a very, very good website. It's becoming more robust. And I gotta let people know, by the way, we've been on here now for 2 years. Almost 2 years.
2.5 years.
And we lose money every month.
Money every month.
I have not
received a paycheck.
And the reason why I say this is not to pat myself on the back. Make sure you understand the perspective here. I don't have to do this radio show. I don't get paid to do this radio show. Now, certainly, I hope 5 years from now, this radio show is as big as Rush Limbaugh, Michael Savage. What the hell? I didn't click that. How are you?
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Freedom Project Academy. We're going to have an overview of my book, To the Victor, Go the Myths and Monuments. Now, a lot of people are going to be very shocked about some of the things that are in this book if they've never been exposed to this sort of thing before. You know, when I went to school, I thought I knew history. You know, I studied history because I wanted to study history. I really liked it. I read a lot of books outside the normal genre that we got out of school. And learned a lot of things that I didn't learn in school, but nothing compared to what I learned after I got out of school. And it really all started when I was in an automobile with 4 other men. We were on our way to a speech. And the fellow that I knew the best in the car, in the back seat, said, you know, my state, he was from Arkansas, just paid off its war bonds. And I thought, well, what's that got to do with anything? But I asked him, because I obviously wanted to be asked, what do you mean, war bonds from Korea? He said, no. I said, from the Second World War. No. Well, when did you buy these war bonds, your state? He said, the Civil War. It had been 100 years, and I did not realize that the North had forced the southern states to buy bonds to pay for the war. And it took them 100 years to pay it off. Not a well-known fact. And so I said to myself, what is it that I don't know about this conflict? And so I started to look at it closer. And the more I looked, the more it led me further back in time, not just to the Civil War, but what caused the war, who caused the war, what organizations were involved, so on and so forth. And I discovered that what I learned in school, quite honestly, ladies and gentlemen, was a myth. And the reasons for the war and the conflict, I began to understand, were done by a particular group of individuals and organizations imported from Europe. Specifically to bring about a war. And I don't know about you, but when I go to events, and I come home and look at my newspaper or turn on the television, and what I see is not the same event that I was at. They don't quite report it that way. Now, there are some reasons for that. For instance, in an automobile accident, you have 2 witnesses, and they're on either side of the street. So one sees the accident from that side, another sees the accident from that side, and they both have a different view. And so sometimes it doesn't look as though they've actually seen the same accident. And that is part of the reason why you get a difference of opinion about certain events. Others, they will look at it based on their education, or lack of education. For instance, if a Cub reporter is there and he doesn't quite or she doesn't quite understand the candidate, for instance, who's speaking, because they don't have enough background to understand what they're saying, they can skew the whole news story. But then there's a third reason. And the third reason is this. Some of them are deliberately skewing what happened. Deliberately skewing what the candidate or the party or the organization stands for, said, so on and so forth. My experience, for instance, in infiltrating Marxist organizations when I was a very young man, showed me that on many occasions these people infiltrate into the newspaper, into the TV studios, and I could give you names and so on and so forth. But just as a quick, for instance, and you can look this up online when you get home, I actually encourage everybody to get out pencil and paper and write some of this stuff down if you don't believe it. Or if I throw a name at you, you can go online and look it up. But I knew a young man, for instance, who was the leader in the 1960s of the Young Socialist Alliance, which was a very militant organization that got people out into the streets that turned into riots in the city of Seattle. When he graduated, and by the way, his father was the head of the Socialist Workers Party, which was the Leon Trotsky branch of the communist movement. Leon Trotsky was the rival of Joseph Stalin in communist Russia, and he got kicked out by Stalin, ultimately murdered by one of Stalin's agents in Mexico. They formed the Socialist Workers Party. This man's father was the head of the Washington State Socialist Workers Party. When he graduated from the University of Washington, he went to work for the Seattle Post-Intelligence as a reporter, and soon became the city editor. Now, do you think he might have been a little bit biased in his reporting and his editing? Of course. But that soon became too boring for him, apparently, because he went on to bigger things. And instead of in the streets or in the newspapers, he went on to become a leader in the environmental movement. The man's name is Mark Krasnowski. You can look him up online. I don't know how much of his early career it has. If anybody's in doubt, I can show you press clippings and everything else. I can even show you his signature on papers saying that he was a member of the Socialist Workers Party. So it's very interesting. So you have those three things that may happen, you see. It's also the same when it comes to history. There are those that look at it from a different angle, those that look at it based on their education, and there are those that actually do change history in the history books. They deliberately obfuscate and lie about what history really was. And so going back into history and starting to look and following all these rabbit holes and chasing the rabbits down them, I began to put a pattern together of early American history that I had never learned. Nor had I found anyone else who had learned it. And that was the beginning of a 45-year time span of looking up facts and putting it into my book, To the Victor Go the Myths and Monuments. And today what we are witnessing is this, a growing distrust of the media. I mean, everybody today is complaining about it. It's so lopsided, it's just incredible, particularly this campaign. Regardless of what you think of the candidates, it's obvious which side the media is on, isn't it, really? This has always been a problem. Most people think that, well, this only is modern. It was Roosevelt, oh, it was Wilson, oh, it was this, oh, it was that. It has always been a problem in the history of the United States. There's been a bias within a certain segment of the media. In those days, of course, the media was exclusively the press. And so about 10% of the newspapers in the time frame of the ratification of the Constitution were actually on the left. What we would say were leftists. Actually, they were Jacobin. And we'll get into that in a moment. Now, we all recognize the fact that individuals and movements have wanted to rule the people. I mean, you know, whether you're looking at Hitler or Stalin, Mao, Saddam Hussein, or anybody else, we know these people want to rule others. Now, how do they get into that position where they wield that kind of power? Are you telling me that the street urchin, like Hitler, a low-level thug in the communist movement by Stalin, and Mao Zedong, who was really nobody, were able to put people together to such an extent to propel them into absolute power, that they did this on their own? One man? Of course not.
One man,
See,
of course
there's
not.
organization.
There's organization
always
behind
hide
these people. They
the
always
organization.
fucking hide.
They put the leader out front.
They put the leader out front.
Nobody thinks about the organization behind it. How come these people are successful? And this organization, people pretty much recognize, came out of a small group of people at Ingolstadt University on May 1st, 1766. The founder was Adam Weishaupt with just a small number of students. And from there, they propelled themselves into a level of influence.
Now,
one of the problems that we have when talking about the
Illuminati is this.
First of all, the Illuminati is a fact. This is undeniable. There's no one that contests that. What is contested is how much power do they have? How much influence do they have? How many members do they have? How well are they organized?
How well are they organized? And when they go out of existence?
Because every history tells you that the Illuminati went out of existence immediately after being discovered by the government of Bavaria. And it was interesting, by the way.
It was interesting.
The way they discovered the Illuminati was totally secret. And in those days, you didn't have mail service like we have today. You know, we just stick the mail in the slot. We know somebody's going to come along and pick it up. And in Timbuktu, they're going to get my letter, right? Well, this isn't the way it was back in the 1700s. Particularly if you had really confidential correspondence, you hired a messenger. Or someone, some friend, some family member, someone you bought, went out and delivered your package, your letter, correspondence, documents, whatever it was. And they had this illuminist carrying these documents between key leaders in the Illuminati. Guess what? As he was approaching Ingolstadt University, a bolt of lightning came down and killed him on this horse. It was an act of God. And when the authorities got there, opened up the papers they had on them. Wait, what is it? These people are talking about taking over government and killing people, developing poisons, and all of that sort of thing. What is this all about? So they found some of the members, because of these papers, started to interrogate them.
These people started to interrogate them.
They discovered what the goals of the Illuminati were. And so, before we get to the goals, let's talk about society in general. Because as a society exists, they form their own government. Every society forms its own government and maintains that government as they wish, based on their culture and religion and so on and so forth, and their geography, whatever, and all things that enter into that society, they form a government. We formed a government here with the 13 colonies, based on our culture, based on our religious background, etc. And that's the case it is all over the world, no matter whether it's a free government like ours or less free in most cases. And so society determines the form of government. Now, if you change that society, you automatically change the government within a certain amount of time. It just is an automatic result. That's why immigration, mass immigration called migration, anytime that's ever happened, there's no time in history when that didn't change the society and the government into which they migrated. No exceptions. That is one of the problems of what's going on in our country today. Is they're changing our society. That will ultimately change our system of government. Can't be helped.
Can't be helped.
And Karl Marx
And
knew
Karl
this.
Marx knew this.
If you read the Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx and Frederick Engels, they state in there that they want a social revolution. They don't say revolution. You know, we think that they want a revolution. They're going to go in the street and they're going to kill a few people. They're going to establish this new government. They know they can't establish a new government unless they change the society. Now, if they don't change society, what do they do? They eliminate part of society. Like Cambodia. They took whole cities, literally cities, not little towns, not little villages, whole cities in Cambodia, and marched them out into the killing fields and slaughtered them all because they knew they couldn't change that society without eliminating enough people to do it. You see, they've estimated, for instance, and this is historical fact, that communists have said at least a third of the American people will have to be eliminated in order to make communism work in this country. Getting rid of those people that will stand up for moral people that follow communist orders. Just that simple. But at any rate, getting back to the point, you've got to change society. Marx knew that if they didn't change society, then they could have a counter-revolution in society. Throw the rascals out and shoot them. I mean, that's what you used to do when you had civil wars and revolutions, right? You shot the loser. I mean, that's the way it was in those days. And so the goal of the Illuminati actually was to change society. Well, how did they propose to do that? So you see the aims of the Illuminati. Excuse me, the overthrow of all government. The destruction of religion. They wanted to get rid of anything that didn't hold allegiance to the state. So they didn't want people believing in God. It didn't matter what the religion was, by the way. They did not want to have the people adhere to a higher authority, the state itself. Get rid of all religion. Abolition of private property. In other words, private property, and this is not taught well in schools today, is an essential ingredient of a free society. You being able to hang on to the fruits of your labor and not, owning your own house or your own farm and so on and so forth. And the death of individualism and family. Again, they did not want to have anybody just doing what they darn well pleased. And defying the government. And they didn't want people to adhere to the family. The family is really the building block of society, isn't it? And you break up that society. That family, and you start breaking up society. The deification of sensuality. Do we see that in our country today? The deification of sensuality. Whatever feels good, do it kind of a thing. The repudiation of marriage. They didn't even want people to be bonded in marriage. And the state control of children. That's why in all of those three cases, these three examples I showed you, Stalin and Hitler and Mao, you go into a classroom in those countries under those rulers. What did you see? You saw a picture of Hitler, Mao, or Stalin at the front of the class, didn't you? And they were required to stand up every day and sing praises to the leader. And that became the substitute for God. And we've seen videos. You can go on YouTube and see all sorts of videos of German kids singing the praises of Adolf Hitler, and so on and so forth. And in the end, the establishment of a world government to be ruled by the Illuminati at the top. And so these are their overall goals to change society, but you can boil them down to two. They have two goals that you should never lose sight of. One is the elimination of God. That is a paramount thing. And two, the building of what they call, it's not a right-wing deal, they call it a New World Order, a one world government. And so these are the aims of the Illuminati. Now, some of the revolutionaries who were involved in the Illuminati in Europe became very influential on American society. And probably maybe one of these people, maybe two, you've heard their names, but they are essential in the study of American history as to the influence they had on the fledgling United States. Philippe Buonarroti, who was a close personal friend of Weishaupt and tutored by Weishaupt. Krakus Beoff, you can trace Hitler and Stalin directly to this guy. Nazism and communism. Louis August Blanqui, the same thing. Giuseppe Mazzini, who was the leader of a wing of the conspiracy called the Carbonari. And Comte de Mirabeau, we'll talk a little bit more about him in a little while. He was a pornographer. He dealt in pornography in France. And then Nikolai Bonneville. Now, Nikolai Bonneville is very interesting. He started the Cercle Social, or Social Circle. And the Social Circle had a profound effect on the American people. Through the various individuals that they had run through their organization, they also formed other organizations. And he was so famous. He was probably the most important member of the Illuminati in France in his lifetime, and very instrumental in the French Revolution. A lot of people know that they are in the business of changing words. You know, it's called semantics, and they will actually change words to confound and confuse the language and move it towards people thinking the way they want them to think. Let me give you an example in my lifetime. When I was a small boy, when you called somebody square, that was a compliment, because you were talking about the four squares of being a good person, you know, responsibility and belief in God and all of that, the four square. That's what you were. You were a good guy.
You were a good guy.
By the time I was an adult, the square had changed completely to an invective. He was a nerd, right?
A nerd.
And so you're a good guy, and within 15 years, the same word is bad guy. And that has changed a lot of words in our lifetime. Welfare, for instance, and all sorts of things. You can look in the Constitution. The meaning of the words has changed completely. And this has been by design. And Nikolai Bonneville in the Cercle Social started that process. Interesting thing about Nikolai Bonneville. Nikolai Bonneville, how many here have heard Bonneville Dam? Bonneville Salt Flats? All these things named Bonneville, it's named after his son. And what happened was a man who was an American, who was instrumental in the American Revolution, went to England and started to form Illuminist organizations. And he was kicked out of, he had to flee England. He went into France. They made him, keep in mind, this guy is not a Frenchman, okay? He's not a French citizen. They named him a member of the French Revolutionary Assembly, representing the people. And he was a very close friend of Nikolai Bonneville, and he moved in with Nikolai Bonneville. He moved in and lived in his house for over 6 years. And he slept with his wife. He slept with Bonneville's wife. He was that close. And when the rise of Napoleon came along, who was also an Illuminist, but put in there by the Illuminati, he decided that he wanted to be the leader. This is one of the things that they're always dealing with, these people. Every one of them, they're like the mafia, right? Guy rises to the top, and the second guy wants to be at the top, so he bumps off the first guy, right? And that's the way the mafia works. Well, the Illuminati worked to a great extent like that too. So once Napoleon got in charge in France, he started to outlaw all these Illuminist organizations. Why? Because he knew they could take him out. You see, they always eliminate the people that can get rid of them. Hitler did it with the Night of the Long Knives, didn't he? Remember the brown shirt leaders? He was afraid they were going to have a counter-revolution against his revolution, so he killed all the Nazi leaders that he feared. And Stalin did it by inventing a war on terror. There was no terrorism in Russia. They just perpetuated a couple of things, made it look like terrorism, and that way he could get rid of all of his opponents and rivals, guys that he feared could take over. Saddam Hussein did it the first week.
The first week.
Saddam Hussein, after he came to power in Iraq,
After
got
he
all
came
the
to power in
Ba'ath
Iraq,
Party leaders together
all
and said,
Ba'ath
now I
Party
want
leaders.
you to go out and shoot him,
Now I
and I
want to
want
go
you to
out
go out and
and
shoot him, and
go out
so
and
on and
shoot
so
him.
forth. And they had to do it. And they did it.
They had to do it.
Because
they
they
did
knew
it.
if they
They knew if they didn't,
it wouldn't just
it
be
wouldn't
one
be
dead,
one
it'd be
dead,
two,
it'd be
right?
two,
Both
right?
of them.
Both of them.
So that's how he
Damn.
struck fear into
Holy
their
crap,
hearts
that's
and
how you
literally took
their
over
heart,
very,
literally took
very
over.
quickly.
Yeah,
Totally.
he's
But at any rate, this guy
Hitler and
is, when Robespierre became the head of the French government, beheading all those people, you know, the Reign of Terror,
that.
he imprisoned this man,
How
this American.
He was good.
No one ever knows how he escaped with his life, but he did. And he came back to America, and Bonneville asked him to take his wife and kids to America because he thought he was going to be arrested and killed by Napoleon. So this man brought these kids and the wife back, and he got the oldest son of Bonneville into West Point. And those are the landmarks that are named after Bonneville, Bonneville's son. The man, the American who did this, who was a member of the Illuminati,
He's a Illuminati.
was a fellow that all of us know.
I'm Illuminati, man. I don't even know.
Thomas Paine was a member
Crazy.
of the
I'm
Illuminati.
Illuminati.
Wrote a great thing called Common Sense. After that, you can throw the rest of it away.
Most
Most of Thomas Paine's writings after that are used as primers by the communist movement to take people who are basically American in their thinking into rationalism and away from God and building big government. Any rate. Now, the Jacobin movement was imported to America from France, revolutionary France. These Illuminist agents came to the United States trying to take over America during Washington and Adams administrations. And they were controlled by the Illuminati. Now, the interesting thing is, now you can find this out if you look hard enough online, it got so bad that when Philadelphia was the capital of the United States before they built Washington, D.C., it's about 27, 28,000 people lived there.
Hey, you got a dollar?
They had a riot of 10,000 people in the streets looking for George Washington to hang him. Now, did you read that in your history book? I sure did. But it's there. It's a fact. In fact, Adams, later on, John Adams, when he reconciled with Thomas Jefferson, because they had a falling out there for about a decade or more, Adams wrote Jefferson and said, the only thing that I think saved the United States in that time period was a yellow fever epidemic that hit Philadelphia. So everybody stayed home. They didn't want to riot anymore. They went home, closed the shutters on their house, stayed inside. And the outside agitators, there were a lot of them, came into town as part of this movement. They didn't want to go to Philadelphia anymore and catch the yellow fever. As a matter of fact, Benjamin Franklin's grandson died of yellow fever. He was the editor of the Aurora newspaper, which was a Jacobin newspaper. By the way, this movement, the Jacobin movement, evolved into the Democrat Party. It's just that simple. Whether you like it or not, look at history, go back and study it. That's the way it is. At the same time, we had a Rosicrucian influence on America. The Rosicrucians is a secret society that's very, very difficult to research. It is probably one of the most secretive of those that are known. And I've read all their books that I can get my hands on. And they always say the same things relative to who their leaders were down through the ages. For instance, they had a Council of Three. This is a worldwide Council of Three, mainly confined basically to Western Europe in all respects. And the leaders of the Council of Three, and wait for this one, Benjamin Franklin, George Clymer, and Thomas Paine. Now, Thomas Paine, when he left and came to the United States, he was replaced on the Council of Three by Lafayette, Marquis de Lafayette. Lafayette probably belonged to more secret societies and revolutionary organizations than anybody than perhaps Albert Pike, for those of you who know that name.
Albert Pike.
It kind of went into a hiatus. These men all died, and they kind of, disappeared, so to speak. And the second Council of Three was revived just before the Civil War. And the individuals who belonged on that was Pascal Beverly Randolph and General Ethan Hitchcock, who was at one time the Commandant at West Point. George Lepard. And George Lepard was a young author, and he wrote a lot of books on history. And they were all fiction. But they were so popular, and he wrote them so well that people actually took some of those fictional accounts and actually started putting them in history books, to where these history books were talking about this guy's fiction instead of the real thing. One of them is the Liberty Bell, for instance, that when they first rang the Liberty Bell, it cracked when they read the Constitution of the United States, and it's not true at all. But at any rate, he died young. And he was replaced by an obscure attorney out in Springfield, Illinois, by the name of Abraham Lincoln. And so these were the Rosicrucian leaders who had, by the way, moved to the United States. You see, they moved out of Western Europe and moved the Rosicrucian headquarters to the United States. So all these individuals were Americans, you see. And that happened a lot. And by the way, you can look it up, and no historian debates this, that the Humanidad Lodge in Paris was a Rosicrucian lodge, and the leaders there included Franklin and Lafayette. No debate on that whatsoever by historians. Now, there was a tremendous amount of Illuminati influence through institutions on the government and in our society. Well, for instance, I'm just going to cover a couple of them because there's so many and we haven't got the time. But once the Bavarian government had outlawed the Illuminati, Weishaupt had to flee north, and he went north into Göttingen University and was a professor there with a number of other members of the Illuminati. In fact, out of that institution comes all of the racial prejudices of Adolf Hitler. You can trace all that, hate the Jews, the Slavs, all the rest of it comes right out of that university in a direct line to the Nazi Party. And out of that instruction there came individuals like George Bancroft. Now, George Bancroft, right after he got his doctorate there, founded Round Hill School, and it became a preparatory school for Harvard. Harvard actually financed it, but he put it together and he ran it. And he had like-minded individuals become part of the faculty of Round Hill School. He went on to become the Secretary of Navy. And as Secretary of Navy, he started Annapolis Naval Academy without the permission of the executive branch, or although he was part of the executive branch, or the Congress. He just started it. And like a lot of things that executives do, Congress kind of goes along with it. Now, you can argue the merits of doing that. We can all say Annapolis is great, it's wonderful. We need training for our young Navy cadets so they can go on to be great admirals and win wars for us and protect our shores and all that. But it was done illegally, basically. And anyway, he was behind it. The other thing is that there were other individuals who were involved in this process out of Göttingen. In fact, Edward Everett was the first American to be awarded a doctorate from Göttingen University. Now, Edward Everett was a very prominent man. You probably know him because he delivered the Gettysburg Address. Now, I know you think Lincoln did, but the actual address was delivered by Edward Everett for about an hour and a half. And Mr. Lincoln stood up and gave this short little dissertation off some notes he made that we think of as today as the Gettysburg Address. But he was not the main speaker. Edward Everett was. And Edward Everett, right after he left Göttingen, the first thing he did when he came back to the United States was to educate Ralph Waldo Emerson. And Ralph Waldo Emerson, his entire life, was involved in the socialist movement. And very much a revolutionary. He wrote some very good poetry. I like his poetry, frankly. I've been to that bridge at Concord, where they shot around the world. They actually stood up to the British Army crossing that bridge. There's that Minuteman statue, and on that statue is that poem by Ralph Waldo Emerson that's so stirring regarding the individuals that stood up to the British at that time. But We know that politicians say one thing, doesn't mean they always do what they say. And that a lot was Emerson. Now I was taught in school. He was a great poet and all that. Thoreau, and these guys, they were great Americans and so on, but they were all socialists. At any rate, a couple of things happened in Europe when the Illuminati was discovered. They developed a tactic that was given to them by some, that when they get discovered, they are to dive down and then come up into the surface again under a new name with different leaders, but it's actually still the same organization. And they've done this time after time after time. Most people don't even know that the name of the Illuminati wasn't their original name. It was the Perfectionables. Hard to say. So they changed their name to Illuminati. But at any rate, what they did was this. They formed something, a network called the German Union. And this German Union was designed to help people, supposedly, with being able to get reading materials and books, magazines, that kind of thing. Because in those days, books and magazines were pretty expensive. Sure, the printing press had come along, but it was still very expensive. So what they would do, they would have a little group, say, in a small town, and they would pool their money to get this magazine subscription or this book, and then they would pass it around. Well, they had nearly 500 of those societies in the German Confederation. And as a result, they started to control what magazines could stay in business, what publishers could stay in business, because they wouldn't order the books that they didn't want out there. They would order the books that were written in the magazines published by their own minions. And so, over a period of time, over many, many years, they started to influence the thinking of the German people. By the time Hitler came along, they were all prepared. But at any rate, that's what they did in Germany. In the United States, they copied the same thing. You're good, man.
Listen, please. I'm going directly across the courtyard to the main barracks. No cell phones and cameras here. Helen, where's that report saying? What is he? Afraid. No, I'm afraid. Afraid of what? I'm going to ask you a series of control questions.
Are you currently in a seated position?
Yes.
Do you feel pain?
In my body.
Are you here?
My body is.
Quinn needs to see you in the briefing room. He says it's urgent.
Are you aware of impending attack on the planet Earth? I'll repeat the question. Did you feel that?
Feel
what?
Feel what?
You should let me go.
Let me go.
If the Earth dies, you die.
You die.
If you die, the Earth survives.
God, what?